Imagine this for a moment. You are not alone. Every decision you make, every word you speak, every step you take is being watched, not by the crowd, not by strangers, not by critics, but by the one person whose judgment matters more than anyone else, your future self. The person you are destined to become is watching you right now, watching how you spend your days, watching how you treat your time, watching whether you rise to the occasion or hide from it. And here is the truth: the future self that is watching you will either thank you or curse you. Napoleon Hill once said that every man carries within him a silent but stern judge, the self he is destined to be. When you understand this, when you begin to act as though your future self is in the room, your behavior shifts, laziness loses its grip, fear shrinks, procrastination evaporates, because suddenly you realize you are not working for applause, you are not working for likes, you are not working for validation. You are working to honor the person you must become. Think about it. Thomas Edison failed thousands of times before he brought light to the world. Imagine if his future self, the one holding that incandescent bulb, could sit across from him in the workshop, whispering, "Keep going. You cannot stop now. The world is waiting for this light." How could he ever quit when the vision of that future man was watching him? Or think of Abraham Lincoln, broken, defeated, scarred by failure after failure, yet somewhere inside him lived the president who would stand tall at Gettysburg and proclaim that a nation, of the people, by the people, for the people shall not perish from the earth. That president was watching the struggling, stumbling Lincoln of the past. And if Lincoln had not acted as though that greater version of himself was waiting, history would have been written differently. So I ask you, what would happen if you lived each day with the awareness that your future self is observing you? If every choice you made had to pass the test of your own destiny? Picture this: you wake up tomorrow morning, the alarm rings, you don't hit snooze. Because you know, the version of you 5 years from now is watching. That version is not impressed by excuses. That version does not respect wasted time. That version expects discipline. And so you rise, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. When you sit down to work, when you face the page, the project, the business plan, you don't half-step it. You give it everything you have. Why? Because your future self is recording it all. Every distraction, every excuse, every compromise is written in a book that you yourself will one day read. And when you understand this, mediocrity becomes unbearable. Andrew Carnegie built an empire of steel not because he wanted riches alone, but because he envisioned the man he must become, the industrial giant who would later give away fortunes to libraries, to education, to humanity. He lived in service to that vision, knowing that every move he made would either build or betray the future self he was destined to meet. And you, what empire are you building? What legacy is waiting? What self is looking at you right now and silently asking, why are you holding back? The truth is, the man or woman you will become is counting on you. Every workout you skip, every hour you waste, every opportunity you ignore, you are stealing not from today, but from the tomorrow that belongs to them. Imagine the weight of that responsibility. Imagine looking into the eyes of your future self, stronger, wiser, freer, wealthier, and realizing that you betrayed them because you settled for comfort today. But the opposite is also true. Imagine looking into their eyes and seeing gratitude. Imagine them thanking you for waking up early, for pushing through the pain, for studying when others played, for believing when no one else did. Imagine them shaking your hand and saying, because you chose discipline, I now live in freedom. Because you endured sacrifice, I now walk in abundance. Because you refused to quit, I now live the life you once dreamed of. That is the power of living as though you are being watched by your future self. It creates urgency. It removes excuses. It transforms every day into a test of character. Because the reality is, history is full of people who had talent, intelligence, opportunity, and still wasted it. But history remembers only those who lived for something greater, those who lived with the eyes of the future upon them. Henry Ford was mocked for his dream of creating an automobile affordable to the common man. Critics said he was foolish, unrealistic, destined to fail. But Ford knew something they did not. He was not living for their approval. He was living for the vision of his future self, the man who would revolutionize transportation, the man who would prove that persistence outlasts ridicule. And so must you. Live as though your every move is observed, as though the record of your life is being written in real time, because it is. The question is, will your future self applaud the record you are writing, or will they mourn it? When you walk through life believing no one sees, you allow yourself to drift. you compromise, you cut corners. But when you awaken to the truth that your future self is the constant witness, you rise to another level. You understand that no hidden action is ever truly hidden. Every indulgence, every hour wasted, every betrayal of discipline shows up in your future. You may deceive the world, but you cannot deceive the person you are becoming. Think of it like this: a seed planted in darkness still grows. Whether it grows into a mighty oak or a choking weed depends on what you plant and how you nurture it. Every private choice, every silent decision is a seed in the soil of your destiny. Your future self is the harvest, and the harvest does not lie. Napoleon Hill wrote that thought crystallizes into habit, habit into action, and action into circumstance. What you are living today is nothing more than the echoes of your past choices, and what you will live tomorrow is the direct result of what you choose today. So why live casually? Why live carelessly? The clock is running, and the judge is waiting. History is filled with men and women who walked as though the eyes of destiny were upon them. Walt Disney was fired from his first newspaper job because they said he lacked imagination. He was bankrupt before he built Disneyland. But do you think he allowed the temporary failures to define him? No. He lived in conversation with his future self, the visionary who would bring joy to millions, the dreamer who would prove that imagination was not a weakness but a gift. When you live with that awareness, something profound happens. You no longer ask, "What do I feel like doing?" You begin to ask, "What does my future self require of me?" Feelings become irrelevant. Discipline becomes sacred. You no longer care for the fleeting comfort of the present when you know that discomfort today is freedom tomorrow. Imagine a man standing at a crossroad. To the left lies ease, comfort, distraction, the path of least resistance. To the right lies discipline, sacrifice, focus, the path of destiny. Most people choose the left because the left feels good now. But the man who chooses the right is the one who lives with the vision of his future self standing on that road, watching, waiting, demanding. And here lies the paradox: freedom is not found in the path of ease. It is forged in the fire of discipline. The gym you dread today gives you the health your future self will beg for. The book you refuse to read today contains the knowledge your future self will desperately need. The risk you fear to take today carries the fortune your future self cannot live without. Do you see it? You are always making a trade. You are either stealing from your future or investing in it. Think of Colonel Sanders. At 65, broke and rejected, he could have surrendered to despair. But instead, he carried within him the image of a man who would not be defeated. He went door to door with a fried chicken recipe, rejected over 1,000 times before one person finally said yes. That one yes gave birth to Kentucky Fried Chicken. Imagine if he had chosen ease. Imagine if he had told himself, "It's too late." His future self would have vanished. Instead, he lived as though the man he was destined to become was still watching, still urging him forward. So ask yourself, what would change if you believed every moment mattered? What would change if you knew your future self was in the room, silently taking notes on your every move? Would you still waste hours scrolling endlessly? Would you still let fear silence your voice? Would you still abandon your dreams for the comfort of today? The truth is, your future self is not passive. They are shaping you even now. Every regret you carry is a message from them. Every time you feel guilt for not acting, it is their whisper. Every time you feel restless, knowing you are capable of more, that is your future self reminding you that you are falling short. And every time you act with courage, every time you choose discipline over laziness, every time you rise when others fall asleep, that too is your future self reaching back in gratitude. When Napoleon Hill interviewed the great titans of his era, Carnegie, Rockefeller, Edison, Ford, he discovered that all of them shared this one invisible trait: they lived as though the future demanded something of them. They carried a sense of destiny. They were not casual about their days. They were intentional, relentless, unwavering, because they knew that every day of weakness robbed their tomorrow, and every day of strength enriched it. And that is the standard you must rise to, because one day you will meet your future self. Maybe in 10 years, maybe in 20, they will stand before you, and the life they live will be the evidence of the choices you are making right now. That meeting cannot be postponed. It cannot be avoided. It cannot be excused. So you must decide, will that meeting be a moment of pride or a moment of regret? Will your future self thank you for your sacrifice, or will they weep at your cowardice? Close your eyes and imagine walking into a room. At the far end stands a figure, stronger, wiser, sharper, a presence that feels both familiar and foreign. It takes you a moment before you recognize them, because it is you, not the you of yesterday, not the you of today, but the you of 10 years into the future. They are staring at you silently. No words spoken, yet their gaze pierces through your excuses, through your comfort, through your distractions. What would you feel in that moment? Pride or shame? This is not fantasy. It is reality waiting to unfold. You will become that person. You will meet them. And every decision you make right now is either carving strength into their face or carving regret into their soul. Discipline is no longer optional. When you see life this way, it becomes sacred. Discipline is the daily offering you give to your future self. It is the proof that you have not betrayed them. Think of it when you resist the temptation to waste time, when you choose to work while others sleep, when you sacrifice comfort for growth. You are leaving behind evidence. Evidence that you honored the destiny that awaits you. This is why Napoleon Hill taught the principle of definiteness of purpose. He understood that a man without purpose becomes a servant to his impulses, a leaf blown by the winds of circumstance. But a man with purpose becomes like a locomotive, impossible to stop once set on track. Purpose gives meaning to discipline. Purpose gives weight to sacrifice. Purpose gives you the courage to keep going when every voice around you says quit. Think of Alexander Graham Bell. For years he battled doubt, ridicule, failure, until at last the telephone became a reality. What carried him through? Not mere stubbornness. It was the vision of the man he was destined to be, the man who would connect the world with sound. That vision of his future self demanded that he endure, and so he did, and so must you. The tragedy of most lives is not that people aim too high and miss. It is that they aim too low and hit. They settle for scraps when greatness was available. They choose temporary pleasure over lasting fulfillment. They sell out their future self for the price of comfort today. But you cannot afford such betrayal, not when your destiny is watching. Imagine the inventor, the leader, the creator, the warrior you could be, standing in the shadows of your choices, waiting to be revealed. They are chained or liberated by what you decide now. If you choose weakness, you bind them. If you choose strength, you set them free. Look at Henry Ford once more. He dreamed of producing a car that every working man could afford. Critics laughed. Engineers doubted. Bankers scoffed. But Ford saw the man of the future, the man who would change the way humanity moved. He worked not for applause, not for validation, but for that future self who was already waiting. And because he refused to betray that vision, we still speak his name today. That is the power of honoring your future self. It writes your name into history. But let's bring this closer. Forget history for a moment. Think of your own life. Think of the man or woman you could be, the health you could carry, the wealth you could create, the wisdom you could embody, the freedom you could live. It is all there waiting. But it does not come by chance. It comes by daily deposits of discipline. Every dollar you save, every book you read, every workout you complete, every skill you sharpen, it all compounds. Day by day, drop by drop, until one day the floodgates open and the life you once dreamed of is standing before you. That is not magic. That is not luck. That is the mathematics of destiny. And here is what you must never forget. Procrastination is theft. It is the crime of stealing from your future self. Every time you delay the work, every time you choose distraction over focus, every time you say later, you are robbing the person you are becoming. But persistence is a gift. Every time you endure, every time you push when it hurts, every time you do the work no one sees, you are depositing treasures into the bank account of your future. So the question is simple: are you a thief or an investor? Are you robbing your future or enriching it? Napoleon Hill wrote, "The man who does more than he is paid for will soon be paid for more than he does." Why? Because the world cannot resist the man who lives for his future self. The world bends to the will of those who refuse to betray their destiny. You must become that man, that woman, that leader. Every morning when you rise, hear the voice of your future self asking, "What will you do for me today? Will you make me proud, or will you sell me out for temporary pleasure?" When you hear that question, excuses evaporate. Suddenly, the weight of today's comfort is unbearable compared to the joy of tomorrow's freedom. Suddenly, you understand that nothing is private. Nothing is wasted. Every choice is a message to the future. So live as though your future self is watching, because they are. You were not born to drift. You were not born to shuffle through life half awake, numbing yourself with distractions while destiny waits in silence. You were born to rise, to build, to carve your name into the stone of history with fire and resolve. And the only way you achieve this is by acting as though your every step is under the gaze of the person you must become. Because here is the raw truth: you are both the sculptor and the clay. Every decision is a chisel strike. Every habit is a stroke of the blade. You are either shaping yourself into a masterpiece or leaving yourself a block of wasted potential. And your future self, the finished sculpture, is staring back at you, demanding that you do not waste the stone. Consider Michelangelo. When asked how he carved David, he said he simply chipped away everything that was not David. That is your task. Your future self already exists, waiting within you. Discipline, vision, sacrifice. These are the tools that chip away the excess, the laziness, the fear, the mediocrity, until the masterpiece emerges. But it will never emerge if you stop chiseling. Napoleon Hill called it organized effort backed by a definite plan and burning desire. Without it, you remain ordinary. With it, you become unstoppable. Think of Andrew Carnegie again, the man who went from a poor immigrant boy working in a factory for pennies a week to the richest man of his age. He did not stumble into fortune. He lived every day as though his future self was watching, as though the Carnegie of steel and empire demanded that the young Carnegie of poverty never surrender. That sense of accountability to the self yet to be is what transformed a boy into a titan. So what about you? Will you allow your circumstances to dictate your future, or will you act with the knowledge that your future self is watching, waiting, measuring? This is why clarity matters. Without a clear vision of who you want to become, you drift, you act without urgency. But once you can see them, your future self, everything changes. Clarity burns excuses to the ground. When you can picture the strength in their posture, the wisdom in their eyes, the abundance in their life, the freedom in their days, you realize that every ounce of effort is worth it. Clarity gives you conviction. Conviction gives you courage. Courage gives you action. And action creates destiny. Look at Walt Disney again. Long before the first brick of Disneyland was laid, he could see it in his mind. He walked through the streets of his imagination. He heard the laughter, saw the lights, felt the magic before anyone else believed it was possible. He lived as though the future Disney was already alive, watching, urging him on. And because he honored that vision, the world now walks in the kingdom he imagined. Your vision may not be Disneyland. It may be a business, a family, a book, a movement, a legacy. But whatever it is demanding that you live for it today. And when obstacles come, and they will, you must remember that your future self is watching how you respond. Do you crumble or do you rise? Do you quit or do you fight? Every storm is a test. Every setback is a question. Will you protect me or will you betray me? Think of Edison in his laboratory. Thousands of failures, every attempt a humiliation in the eyes of critics. But Edison knew something they did not. He was not working for them. He was working for the Edison of the future, the one who would hold the light in his hands. And because he refused to betray that vision, darkness gave way to light for all of humanity. This is why gratitude becomes so powerful. Gratitude is not just for what you have now, it is for what you are building, for who you are becoming. Gratitude anchors you in the truth that every step forward, no matter how small, is a step toward honoring your future self. And here is the paradox. When you live as though your future self is watching, you begin to walk with more power in the present. You carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You work differently. Because you realize that today is not just today. Today is eternity condensed into 24 hours. Today is the soil of your tomorrow. Do not waste it. Do not betray it. Do not trade your destiny for distraction. History is filled with forgotten names of those who wasted their future. Do not join them. Stand instead among the few who lived as though their every breath mattered. Stand with the Lincolns, the Carnegies, the Disneys, the Fords, the ones who walked under the gaze of their destiny and refused to bow to mediocrity. Because one day, sooner than you think, you will meet the person you are becoming, and that meeting will either be the sweetest reunion or the most bitter regret. Resilience. It is the furnace where the future self is forged. You cannot build greatness on sunny days alone. The storms must come. The betrayals, the losses, the failures, the long nights where progress seems invisible. These are not accidents. They are the testing grounds. They are the moments where your future self leans in closer, watching, measuring, asking, will you bend or will you break? Every hero of history faced this crucible. Lincoln buried a child while carrying the weight of a divided nation. Edison spent sleepless nights among shattered experiments. Ford stared at bankruptcy before revolutionizing industry. Each could have surrendered. Each could have said, enough, but they did not. Why? Because they lived with the fire of a vision that was greater than their pain. They knew their future self demanded endurance. And here is what most never understand. Resilience is not the absence of pain. It is the refusal to allow pain to dictate your story. It is standing in the ashes of failure and declaring, this is not the end. This is the beginning. For your future self is not built in moments of comfort. They are sculpted in moments of resistance. When the weight feels unbearable and you lift anyway, you carve strength into their bones. When fear screams at you to retreat and you step forward anyway, you carve courage into their heart. When doubt whispers you are not enough and you act anyway, you carve confidence into their soul. And in those moments, you are not only surviving, you are multiplying. Napoleon Hill observed that every adversity carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. But only those who refuse to quit ever find that seed. Adversity is a locked vault. Resilience is the key. Inside that vault lies the wisdom, the strength, the opportunity your future self requires. If you quit, the vault remains closed. If you endure, you walk away richer than you ever imagined. Look at Disney again. After bankruptcy, after ridicule, after betrayal by business partners, he could have walked away, but instead he endured. He acted as though the Disney of the future, the one standing in front of Cinderella's castle, was demanding he continue. And because he did, the magic endured beyond his lifetime. And so it will be with you if you choose resilience. But resilience alone is not enough. You must also embrace adaptability. The world will shift beneath your feet. Technology, markets, relationships, circumstances, all will change. And if you cling stubbornly to what no longer serves you, you will drown. Your future self requires flexibility. They demand that you evolve. Think of Charles Darwin. Not the strongest survived, not the smartest, but the most adaptable. This truth has not changed. To honor your destiny, you must be willing to reinvent, to learn, to grow. Napoleon Hill wrote that one of the most dangerous habits is closed-mindedness, the refusal to accept new ideas, new methods, new perspectives. A man who believes he already knows enough condemns his future self to mediocrity. But the man who remains teachable, curious, adaptable, guarantees that his future self will thrive in any environment. Look at Henry Ford. His first automobiles were crude, unreliable, mocked. But he did not cling to failure. He adapted, he refined. He innovated until the Model T became a revolution. That adaptability is why his name lives on. Your future self is not asking you to be perfect. They are asking you to be resilient and adaptable, to endure storms without breaking and to evolve with every shift of the wind. Do you understand how unstoppable this combination makes you? Resilience makes you unshakable. Adaptability makes you unstoppable. Together, they form a character that no obstacle can defeat. And here is the final truth. Life is not happening to you. Life is responding to you. Every time you act with discipline, every time you endure with resilience, every time you evolve with adaptability, you bend reality toward your future self. But every time you give in to laziness, every time you surrender to fear, every time you resist growth, you betray them. So I ask you, with the full weight of eternity pressing on your heart, what will you choose? Will you choose weakness or will you choose greatness? Will you betray your future self, or will you rise for them? Because one day, when the noise of the world has faded, when the distractions are gone, when your excuses have crumbled to dust, you will stand face to face with the person you became. And in that sacred moment, there will be no hiding, no pretending, no second chances, only truth. Will that truth be victory or regret? Picture this moment with absolute clarity. You stand in front of a mirror, not the mirror in your bathroom, but a mirror that reflects time itself. On one side, you see the you of today, imperfect, flawed, struggling, but full of untapped power. On the other side, you see the you of tomorrow, the one you could become if you honor discipline, if you obey purpose, if you refuse to betray your destiny. That second reflection is brighter, stronger, freer. They stand taller because they carry the weight of fulfilled potential. They look into your eyes with gratitude or with disappointment. That reaction is not random. It is created by what you are doing right now. And this is the climax of it all. You are not just living for yourself today. You are living for every version of you that is yet to exist. The child you once were is watching. The elder you will be is watching. The generations you may one day inspire are watching. Live as though the entire lineage of your own soul depends on your choices, because it does. Napoleon Hill said, every adversity, every failure, every heart touch carries with it the seed of an equal or greater benefit. That benefit is not always wealth. Sometimes it is wisdom. Sometimes it is resilience. Sometimes it is the iron in your spirit that your future self will one day wield like a sword. So do not shrink from the challenge. Do not curse the struggle. Do not hide from the fight. Embrace it. Stand tall within it. Because your future self is not asking whether life was easy. They are asking whether you were faithful. Faithful to your dream. Faithful to your vision. Faithful to the fire inside you that the world tried to extinguish. Look once more at Lincoln, who faced defeat after defeat, ridicule after ridicule. He failed in business. He lost elections. He buried loved ones. Yet he rose again and again because he knew the Lincoln of the future. The president, the leader, the emancipator, was watching. And because he refused to betray that vision, a nation was preserved. You may not be called to lead a nation, but you are called to lead your own life with the same resolve, to act as though the highest version of yourself is watching, judging, guiding. So when temptation comes, remember, your future self is watching. When laziness whispers, remember your future self is watching. When fear screams, remember your future self is watching. And in that moment, ask yourself, what choice would make them proud? If you answer that question with honesty, your path becomes clear. Because greatness is not one grand decision. It is 1,000 small choices stacked on top of each other until they form a mountain. Every early morning, every disciplined hour, every sacrifice is a stone. And one day you will stand on top of that mountain, breathing the air of freedom, looking down at the path you climbed, and your future self will smile because you did not betray them. That smile, that gratitude, that silent handshake across time, that is the reward. Do not sell it for temporary comfort. Do not waste it on distraction. Do not bury it under fear. Live with fire. Live with clarity. Live with discipline. Live with resilience. Live with adaptability. Live as though every step is recorded in the book of your destiny, because it is. And when that final chapter is written, let it be said of you, here was a man, here was a woman, who lived under the gaze of their future self and never flinched. Here was one who honored the gift of life, who refused mediocrity, who embraced the fullness of their calling. Because that is what Napoleon Hill meant when he said, "Whatever the mind of man can conceive and believe, it can achieve." Your future self has already conceived it. Your task is to believe it, and then to live in such a way that you achieve it. So rise, act, work, endure, adapt, grow, and never forget you are being watched. And if you live with that awareness, if you carry it in your bones, you will walk into your future not with shame, not with regret, but with power, with pride, with freedom. Because you will meet your future self at the mountaintop, and they will thank you. Listen carefully, because what I'm about to tell you is the only way this message truly becomes alive in you. From this moment forward, I want you to imagine that every breath you take, every word you speak, every action you make is under the gaze of your future self. Not a stranger, not a critic, not the world. You, the highest, strongest, wisest version of you, the one who has already conquered, already endured, already created a life worth living. They are watching. And every time you rise when it would be easier to fall, you honor them. Every time you choose discipline when it would be easier to quit, you honor them. Every time you act with courage when fear tries to paralyze you, you honor them. But every time you give in to laziness, every time you hide from your calling, every time you settle for less than what you know you are capable of, you betray them. This is not about motivation. Motivation fades. This is about duty, about loyalty to the one person who will live with the results of your choices long after today is gone. So make them proud, build them strong, gift them freedom. They are counting on you, because one day, maybe 5 years, maybe 10, you will meet them. And when that day comes, when you stand face to face with the person you became, you will know instantly whether you lived with honor or with regret. Make sure it is honor. Make sure it is pride. Make sure when they look back at you, they whisper with gratitude, "Thank you. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for building this life. Thank you for refusing to betray me." Act like you are being watched by your future self, because you are. And if you live with that fire, that awareness, that conviction, nothing will stop you. Not fear, not doubt, not failure, nothing. Because destiny bends for the man or woman who refuses to betray the eyes of their future self. So rise now, today. Not tomorrow, not someday, today. And live like the person you are becoming is watching, because they are. And they are waiting for you at the mountaintop